Short bursts of motivation and productivity followed by a crash. That's norepinephrine-driven phasic dopamine spikes happening on top of a low tonic dopamine baseline. Today, I'm going to give you 2 lifestyle adjustments and a simple toothpick acupressure protocol you can do at home to help support this phase 2 of our 2-part chronic fatigue protocol. I'll be breaking down what's actually driving those bursts and crashes, why the things you tried haven't worked, and the science behind why these at-home protocols target the problem more precisely. The reason completing phase 1 is so important is that before we rebuild drive, the nervous system has to regain enough stability to tolerate it. When inhibitory tone returns, nervous system doesn't just feel calmer, it also removes the condition that suppresses dopamine signaling. Under chronic stress, dopamine is pushed down by excessive excitatory and stress-driven input. As that load eases, dopamine synthesis and signaling capacity can begin to return. You stop feeling mentally overwhelmed by small tasks, even though you're not yet eager to do them. That's the signal that phase 1 has done its job and we can move on to phase 2. Now that's where the drive comes back without tipping the system into overdrive. This is the start of the catecholamine rebuilding. This phase 2 is all about dopamine and norepinephrine. Dopamine regulates motivation and drive, while norepinephrine regulates engagement and follow-through. This isn't something that you force. It happens when the system has enough stability to be able to support it. The dopamine and norepinephrine imbalance in chronic fatigue shows up in 2 distinct patterns. On one side, there's low tonic dopamine, which looks like apathy, low drive, and flat or indifferent mood. On the other side, there's short bursts of motivation and productivity driven by stress and adrenaline, and then it's followed by crashes. That's what we call stress-driven phasic dopamine peaks. Fixing this isn't about chasing those bursts. It's about rebuilding the tonic dopamine foundation and restoring stable norepinephrine support so engagement can be sustained without the crash. Try pushing through without rebuilding dopamine and norepinephrine tone, and you'll keep crashing faster. This is why stimulants and motivation hacks backfire over time. So now let's talk about how to rebuild motivation and drive without pushing and without crashing. The first step is removing signal noise, and we're going to be doing that through dopamine fasting. This means one 24-hour period per week for 6 weeks. No screens. None. This isn't about willpower or punishment. It's about giving your dopamine system a break from constant phasic stimulation so receptor sensitivity can reset. You're not doing anything during that time. You're just removing stacked stimulation. You'll be connecting with friends, family, reading, walking, cooking, playing a board game. These are all allowed. The goal is quiet reward, not isolation. Dopamine fasting isn't about the screens themselves. It's about breaking the habit of constant novelty and urgency so tonic dopamine can recover. Tonic dopamine improves when phasic dopamine isn't constantly getting hijacked. By removing reward stacking, that reset can actually happen. The second adjustment is what I call targeted effort. You pick a skill like drawing, woodworking, learning a new language, or developing a musical instrument. Now you want to pick a task within that skill which is slightly harder to do than what you're comfortable with. The sweet spot is a little bit of a lip-biting struggle, but before that, screw this level. Just enough friction so your brain has to show up. That's the zone where dopamine and norepinephrine come back online. Now, 20 minutes is the goal, but follow your body, and you want to stop while you still have energy. You want to stop while you still have a little bit of gas left in the tank. And you're going to want to do this 3 times a week if you can. And this is what helps rebuild tone. And this works better than generic exercise for dopamine because intense exercise, it spikes norepinephrine and phasic dopamine, while targeted effort, it raises tonic dopamine, tonic norepinephrine without that sympathetic blowback. Now, it's all about the reps, not the intensity of the task, because dopamine neurons adapt to progress, not exertion, and norepinephrine neurons adapt to precision, not strain, which is why these two adjustments are paired together. Now, on to the toothpick acupressure. I'll be using the same toothpick technique that I showed in part 1 of this series. I'll be using specific facial points from Dr. Hiroshi Nagata's system, which sends sensory signals through facial nerve pathways into the brainstem, supporting the systems that regulate dopamine and norepinephrine tone. Dr. Nagata's facial points are particularly effective because they're working through sensory gating, adjusting baseline excitability, and strengthening top-down inhibition. That makes them well suited for this second phase, where the goal is rebuilding catecholamine tone without triggering stress or overdrive. So this is how you hold it. Now remember, we're going to be using it the same way, and it should feel pokey, not ouchy, and you want to stop if the skin feels irritated. Now here's the sequence of points on me. You want to do this sequence once per day, either before getting out of bed or right before going to sleep, when the nervous system is most receptive. So now, how do you know if any of this is working? Well, you don't judge it by motivation or productivity at first. You judge it by signal. Recovery is often non-linear, and progress is better assessed by functional stability rather than momentary surges in motivation. Small tasks stop feeling overwhelming, even if you're not eager to do them. Your mind feels quieter. Decisions take less effort. You crash less hard when you do push, and engagement becomes more available without urgency. You can stay with a task a little longer. You can stop without feeling wiped out. Drive starts to feel steadier instead of forced. That's the progression. Less noise, more stability, then sustainable engagement. If you're chasing motivation, you're too early. If you're noticing stability, you're on the right track. I hope you found this helpful. And if you want help applying this in a more personalized way, I do offer video appointments where we can walk through these phases together and adapt them to your needs. And if you're in New Hampshire, I also provide in-person neurological acupuncture statewide through my house calls. You can find out more information or schedule an appointment at neuroacupuncturenh.com.